This is Enaa in with you at the Fight Back, and today I'm reviewing Jean-Paul Sartre's Critique of Dialectical Reason, Volume 1. Sartre wrote the Critique of Dialectical Reason in an attempt to make history intelligible by placing the dogmatic ossified Marxism he had encountered in France on existentialist foundations. To Sartre, Marxism and existentialism were not exclusive but complementary. Together, the two ideas could fuse and give us a new view of the direction of human history. To Sartre and Marx, I would argue, human beings were both free and determined. They were both subjective and objective, etc., etc. Humans were not one, i.e., subjective to the exclusion of the other, objective. Sartre had lived under the long political and cultural shadow of the French Communist Party. The French Party dominated the left in France, partly inspired by its heroism during the resistance, but its Marxism was presented as mechanical, dry, and the bearer of truth all at the same time. The French Party promised a radiant socialist future, yet its politics were strictly reformist/Stalinist, and this could be clearly seen in the French Party's actions during the Algerian War, and even more notoriously during the 1968 revolt. Yet in the late 1950s, there was a shakeup that allowed for Sartre to strive for a new path for Marxism and for liberation politics in general. One, there is the Hungarian Revolt, Khrushchev's denunciations of Stalin, the Algerian War, and decolonization in the Third World. In Volume 1 of the Critique, Sartre sought to provide the basic structures of human history. He was pretty much recasting Marxism. In Volume 2, Sartre started to explain the real problems of history, and I may review this work at another time, but on to Volume 1. Sartre begins Volume 1 by saying that people are dominated by scarcity. Scarcity is what distinguishes man throughout history. The struggle against scarcity led to the division of labor, the struggle of classes, etc., etc. The struggle of man in the world gave rise to two groups, the series and the group. These are fundamental concepts of Sartre. The series is based on competition. There is no common or collective purpose in a series. At one point, Sartre says that a series is a plurality of solitudes. To envision a series, think of the working class under capitalism, fighting each other for a piece of bread, a wage, or based on the account of a skin color. You may be part of the same class, but you really don't know it, and you're fighting against each other. A group, on the other hand, is based on cooperation. A group is based on some common or collective purpose. The group is conscious. The group practices solidarity. An example would be individuals under socialism or working in that direction, i.e. the Paris Commune. A class, a Marxist concept, may be a series or a group, or it can exhibit features of both. For instance, the proletariat can contain a minority of socialist activists, while a majority are fighting amongst themselves for a wage. They're not class conscious, etc., etc. For Sartre, it's a series that is under the domination of scarcity and is the dominant foundation of all modes of production. To overcome scarcity, the series must become a fuse group. They are antithesis, a revolutionary movement. Yet the fuse group always risks falling back into scarcity. To maintain itself, the fuse group must maintain itself through pledges and violence. In a world of scarcity, the fuse group becomes institutionalized, losing its dynamicism and becoming bureaucratized. The ultimate form of this institutionalism is the state. The state rules through its forms of violence and manipulation, breaking the fuse group back to serality. It is due to this process and Sartre's view of class, composed of series and groups again, that he believes that the working class can never establish its rule. Bureaucratism, the rule of the bureaucracy, and repression are inevitable under socialism, according to Sartre. That, in a simple and perhaps simplistic form, is the basic outline of Volume 1 of the Critique of Dialectical Reason. Yet there are many criticisms to make of it. I'm going to start off by making one in general, or rather just a warning. This is not an easy book to read. I spent at one point 6 hours reading the same 20 pages. I got a lot out of it, but it's not like reading. But on to more substantive criticisms of the critique. 1. Sartre eternalizes scarcity. He makes it an ahistorical concept. He believes that scarcity is a fundamental condition that humanity cannot escape. To say that humans are condemned to live under scarcity is to prejudge the issue. Yes, people may live under scarcity in capitalism, but capitalism produces waste along with abundance. Isn't it possible that another mode of production can exist with nature and man? Of course, called socialism. At least that's my humble opinion. And by making scarcity an eternal problem of history, Sartre discreetly lets capitalism off the hook. We could just blame scarcity rather than capitalism. Surely this wasn't Sartre's aim, was it? Along with this, Sartre believes under scarcity, which he eternalizes again. Every person finds in every other person an enemy. After all, they have to compete with each other to survive. This seems to be the ultimately pessimistic conclusion. That means humanity is perpetually condemned to serality. Surely an existentialist philosopher of freedom would find it odd that people were already condemned to a certain fate. Sartre's analysis begins at the level of individuals. The series is basically man versus man, fighting each other as individuals, the plurality of solitudes. In a certain way, this is the bourgeois method of analysis, the idea of Robinson Crusoe. Or, as Margaret Thatcher put it, there is no society, only individuals and their families. Listen to Glenn Beck. He addresses his audience as individuals. What Sartre is doing, perhaps unconsciously, is criticizing the bourgeois ideology from within its own framework. Yet people need to produce the means of which they need to live. This production takes place socially, dividing humanity into certain classes. Hence, class, or the social mode of production, comes prior to the individual. I believe that these criticisms make Sartre's attempt to reconcile Marxism and existentialism a failure. He ahistorically makes scarcity into a permanent feature of human history. He also seems to accept a bourgeois individualistic framework while criticizing that framework at the same time. Still, Sartre's project addresses a difficult questions and poses challenges for its readers and socialists in general. No one should be put off by reading this great work, and there's plenty you can get out of it. Again, this is Enaa, in with you in the fight back. Take care.